Good evening, everybody. It is the LFC Daytrippers. You'll notice that Andy is a late sub in for Phil. Slackline Egypt was in on the comments at 9:18 asking if we'll get some Andy sound effects. Well, Slackline, you've had your wish and your dream come true. And there he is, straight back in on the comments as well. Fair play for hanging around for the last 40 minutes or so.
He's setting a very low bar there for his dreams, isn't he? Never wish for too much, man.
It is. Look, it is. You know, it is the days of lockdown, Neilo. So these small things get us through the days, I suppose. So tonight we've got Andy. How are you doing, Andy?
Oh, good, Ray. Just come off the bench there, rearing to go. Done a few stretches. Got Phil's notes because he's a really good topic, but I'm still trying to get my head around. But I'll give it a bash.
Yeah, do your best Nat Phillips impression. Yeah. Straight off the bench. You know, cold as ice, but I'm sure you'll be able to give us an able stand-in performance. Neilo, we've got Neilo who is kind of almost on his way to being in Technicolor.
Yeah, man. Sorry about the lighting in my kitchen isn't great. You know what I mean? We kind of have a lot of mood lighting here.
Yeah, well, and a fabulous haircut to boot as well. Fair play.
Nice one, man.
Look at that. Yeah. And we've got Pete over in Barcelona. Good to have you in again, Pete. How are you doing?
Cheers, mate. Hello to everybody in the UK and Ireland except Gary Lineker and Tony Cascarino. You two can fuck off. Hello to everybody else.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. More about that later. So that is going to be. Can't wait to hear about that myself. What the fuck is that? That is going to be our fifth topic, which Ramez Khalil has added to the agenda today. So it is around the Salah slander that's been going on in the media since yesterday, and really took on a different dimension this morning with Tony Cascarino's piece, which we'll get on to. But the main topics of conversation tonight from the lads will be, first of all, we're going to go over to Pete shortly about Klopp's social media presence. We'll then come on to Neilo's Adapt and Overcome. We'll then go on to Andy's stand-in for Phil when does form become the norm, and then we'll finish off before we get to Ramez's topic on our side. We'll finish off with a bit on the latest kind of vibe from the club around ticketing and when fans are finally allowed into the ground, how we should expect this to go down. Albeit, I think it'll be next season now before we see people back inside of Anfield, unfortunately. But Pete, we'll come on to you. Klopp's social media presence. You put this one forward for us. What's the what was the thought behind that?
Well, I think we are reliably informed, obviously, that he is somewhere out there. He is on a couple of the more prominent social media, like Twitter being the one, Facebook and Instagram being the others. And I'm just wondering, I wanted to put it out there. We had a chat last week about the team that he thought he would put out. Now, just using this as an example, we all threw Jordan Henderson into centre-half. Some of us threw Jorginho Wijnaldum into centre-half. Some of us even said he'd stick with the young lad, Williams, at centre-half. But then he goes his other way. And I'm wondering, if he does have a social media presence, is he paying attention to all of us numpties, picking the team, having a good giggle, and then deciding to go with a lad that everybody had cast off, who was just about to be sold before the championship transfer window closed. So I'm wondering if the man does have a social media presence. I know there's a few, like Grizz, for example. I know Grizz knows more than he pretends to know. I'm wondering who has seen. Is there any clues out there? And I'm kind of looking to throw this out to some of our viewers and subscribers. Where is he, and what do we think that he's he's paying attention to, and what do we think he's getting a giggle out of most?
Andy, you're probably in as good a position to answer that as anyone, because you spend the most amount of time, I would say, on Twitter than the rest of us combined. What's your view on whether Klopp takes any notice of what goes on in that madhouse?
Yeah, I have it on fairly good authorities on Twitter. I haven't a clue what his account is. If I did, I would follow him. But
there is an account out there, isn't there?
Yeah, but it's tweeted during matches and all, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's his missus.
Yeah, could be.
She looks after the Twitter during the match.
But it's funny that particular account holds very Klopp-esque views. Well, it did at the start. I'm not so sure now, but he's definitely on social media. I think he's on social media more than he's actually reading the mainstream media. He seems very aware of the stupid things people are saying. Like, you know, he's often thrown little digs at the kind of stuff that's kind of going on Twitter. And I mean, if you're not on Twitter, how else do you know about it? Like, the Twitter world is a little bit different to the real world. And I don't think the stuff that we shite about on Twitter is actually in the normal media. So he's definitely there. He's definitely reading all the nonsense because he's had to come out and defend certain players at certain times who receive an awful lot of hate on Twitter in particular.
Do you think Andy understands the hate for Hendo and the love for Keita? Do you think he understands those kind of dynamics?
I think you need to be a seasoned Twitter user to understand those dynamics. I mean, there's one thing about LFC Twitter since I've been on it is these sort of agendas that develop, and every so often the player comes along. Now, off the top of my head, Keita, Emre Can, Mahamadou Sakho, they seem to divide opinions on Twitter so widely. It's almost like you're seeing them speaking about a player that you're not familiar with, that you've never seen play, because it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's like the Sakho of people's dreams, or the Emre Can of people's dreams, or the Naby Keita's people's dreams. I think you'd be better. Your energy would be better served supporting the players that have actually performed and have actually played, 100 odd games for the club. So I would say it'd be hard for Klopp to understand that dynamic, because it takes a while.
Yeah, so we got some of the comments in here. Someone's convinced that he is on Insta and follows all the players. That's Mojo who's put that in.
Come here, he's a narcissist, Klopp, isn't he? He loves the attention from the media. He kind of feeds off it, so you can be absolutely sure he's on Twitter. The thing about Twitter is you tend to only follow people who reinforce your own idea. You know what I mean? It's like an echo chamber. So yeah, he's definitely on it, and he's on Instagram. He's only following people that are telling him he's a great fella, like I do.
I don't know about that, Neil. Don't know about that. No. I follow a lot of Manchester City fans. I follow a lot of Chelsea fans, a lot of Manchester United fans, just to wind them up and just to see them fall apart. I think he strikes me as somebody that is, I wouldn't say it's less narcissistic and more philosophical. I think he'd be the type of lad, in my view, that would be more open to, almost learning. And this is why I wanted to bring this point up. Do you think managers like that would kind of dip their toe in the water? For example, Carlo Ancelotti is quite open about the fact that he has a Twitter account. And I noticed that after the backlash with Jordan Pickford, well, we all noticed that he decided to drop him. Do you think, Neil, for example, that's reactionary to the amount of stick that he's getting? Or do you think that he was looking for an excuse?
Come here, I'd like to think that Jesus Klopp, at least, has the strength of attitude that he doesn't listen to fucking wombats on Twitter. You know what I mean? That he understands Jesus, that he can see. I can see how bad the people are. But I think the question might be asking me is: do you think, if the question you're asking me is before he drops somebody, do you think they'll be able to handle the social media reaction? Personally, I think it's probably a bigger deal, because maybe when I wasn't on Twitter for a long time. Well, I was, but I'm back on it now. What's this fella? What's this? And Williams, right? Neco Williams, the young lad. The reaction he got for whatever, I can't remember what the fucking incident was. There was a lot of tits given out about him. It's at that age, I suppose you're very susceptible. You can be very susceptible to people's views. You can be very impressionable. So maybe he's scoping out to see that type of fan reaction, because you're not getting that to the fans that are in the stadium, particularly because they'd have to pay a few quid and they're caught up in the atmosphere and all that. So it's a little bit different, you know what I mean? But if you're just sitting in your room in your pants calling somebody a cunt, that's a little bit easier, isn't it? There you go.
Yeah, that's Everton.
By the way, Twitter's fucking shit, man. Oh, yeah, fuck it now.
But the reality
is fucking horrible.
The reality of this is that Klopp is he is a modern manager in many respects, and you can't imagine.
Well, he is, right, because he's operating in the modern times.
Yeah, well, you can't imagine.
Well,
yeah, I was about. You just stole the name right out of my mouth there. I can't imagine Roy spends too much time worrying about Twitter. But I think Klopp would have a consideration, as you've kind of alluded to there, Neilo, around players' reactions for anything negatively impacting their kind of psyche, I suppose, in terms of social media fallout. You'd be a fool not to. I also think, in the early days of Twitter and some of the mistakes and the misguided, tweets that went out, I think a lot of sense is being talked into players and managers now not to get too caught up, certainly in terms of interacting or responding.
Do you know what I think he might find interesting, actually? These so-called people who are perceived as experts, who have loads of followers, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of followers, and all they're doing is sitting in their gaff with some computer software, watching a match and analysing it, you know what I mean, and not taking anything in context. And they seem to be some type of aficionados on the way modern football is played. You know the way you can pause, take a picture of this match on Sky Sports, and then get a pen and draw a picture around it, a circle around it. Oh, look at his movement here. He's looking the wrong way. When that is like literally a millisecond, and loads of people are going, yeah, he's a dickhead, isn't he? He's fucking brutal. You know, like them people are experts, right? I think I'd say he has a good giggle at that, going, Jesus Christ, fucking hell, look at these tits.
Well,
anyway,
Andy,
that's just me.
Well, Andy, there was a conspiracy theory that Klopp is behind all the Naby Love in the comments. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, look, we all love Naby. What's not to love? His personality is great. He looks like the type of fella you want to spend time with around the place and having a laugh. But I'm talking about these invented performances. I think what Naby needs is less pressure. Unfortunately, I think he might be on his last legs at the club this season, not because he's a poor player, but just because he can't maintain any sort of fitness, and he hasn't even got a chance of a run of games to prove whether he's good enough or not. But what he needs now is less pressure, and coming in for 50 million, waiting a season, a lot of built up expectations. He was thrown straight into the team, unlike other players who kind of benefited, I suppose, from a little bit of a integration period, like Robertson, Fabinho, Ox the first season. All these players got a little bit of a chance to hang around and watch how things happen. Naby was thrown straight in, and unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out for him. But we need to just let him perform and not microanalyze every single movement he has on the pitch, because we do it ourselves. Like anyone who is on a podcast or has a Twitter account, we do it ourselves. But just, I think he needs sorry.
I think at 50 million he was bought as a starter, and you don't need an assimilation time. I mean,
no, you do.
In my opinion,
new league, new system. Totally different ball game to what he was used to.
Come here, just say Siemens gave me a job in Germany, right? Yeah. They wouldn't say to me, no, Neil, listen, we're really busy on a Friday. You stay at home on a Friday. Take the day off. It's too busy in here. I know we probably over here, it's a different country, but listen, it's really busy on a Friday. We've loads of shit to do. You don't come in that day, man. It'll be too busy for you. In about 6-7 months, when you've got used to it, start coming in then.
Yeah.
That's not my opinion.
Look, I appreciate
we had the fucking play.
I appreciate the the comparison there, but
the analogy.
Every company or organization does have an induction period, but that
you have to go to work every day.
Yeah, I know you do, but like working in
but Naby's working from home, Andy.
He's working from Zoom.
Yeah. He's taking the government's advice and he's just doing a few keepy ups in his back garden for the
Come here, look, there's
6 weeks.
There's a comment. There's a comment there, okay? Naby's the most underwhelming player I've seen for Klopp at the price and hype. Now, you could look down 5 comments, right, and see that Naby's the most exciting player that he's seen under Klopp, and he's the best midfielder we have. That's how like divided these opinions are. There's not too many players you would see such divisiveness. It's crazy, and I'm sure that's something that Klopp would get a giggle off. And any player that's kind of has that, with the exception of Henderson, I think the writing is kind of on the wall for them. It normally means they're on the exit.
Yeah. Neilo, I'm gonna move this into your topic. Adapt and overcome. You know, at some point there probably will be a time where we call upon Naby Keita for a stretch of 4 or 5 games, hopefully, if he can stay fit. And chances are he'll deliver something in those games. He'll save us a point or he'll win us 3 points. We've already seen that this season now is like we're still early stages and we've been hit pretty hard with injuries, but I guess that was always on the cards. I take it your adapt and overcome is really about depending on the squad as a whole here and trusting in the system that Klopp has instilled.
What I said, right, was necessity is the mother of all invention, actually, but I don't think Gav could spell that, so that was... Come here, what I was kind of getting at was, right, the Van Dijk thing, particularly, when you imagine, we need to get someone in at centre half, I think the problem is a little bit more deeper rooted than that. It's a bit more deep seated, in fact. It's not just, and I know it's not just what he brought as a centre half or just filling in. Like, it's not just you put a square peg in a square hole. What he brought is a little bit. He was a leader. He's so good that everybody looked up to him, and he's such a calm. I know if this has been said a million times, he's such a calming influence on everything else that goes with his goal scorer, whatever the fuck, brilliant passer. I think how we sometimes people say, "Oh, we just need to go and get a centre half." This fella, Kubala, is that his name? The chap plays for Lazio or whatever the fuck. Napoli, yeah. Go and get him, right? He's great. But it's a little bit. We need a little bit more than that. We need everybody to step up. Not just on how they play in every game, but need to believe in ourselves a little bit more and kind of not, oh, Jesus, Van Dijk is out. How are we going to do this when we are trying for adversity? Like I said that last week. But do you see the point I'm trying to make? That it's not just go and get a centre half. Things need to change a little bit more. Everybody needs to up their belief in their game, in my opinion. That's kind of what I was getting at. And then you have this young flick that came in the weekend and done brilliantly. He really did do brilliantly, but when you're really up against it, the shit is hitting the fan. It's too much to expect him to step up to that level again. You know what I mean? As young players' performances fluctuate.
Yeah, I think there was some on Gav's show on the Fatback 4 last night. There was, by the sounds of it, quite a few comments flying in and people panicking at the thought of Nat Phillips being our centre back against Manchester City. But Pete, you immediately, this was one of your topics a few weeks back after the Van Dijk injury, that Klopp would adapt. He wouldn't just look to plug in a Matip or another centre back. He would move Fabinho back, or he would look to employ maybe a different formation. Has this kind of already started on the way that you expected? Obviously, the injury to Fabinho wasn't expected, but still, he hasn't just looked potentially for one solution here, has he?
No, I think Klopp's a very difficult man to predict, and very difficult mind to read. Obviously, I mean, we all had a go at it. The Fabinho thing would have been ideal to coast through to the end of the season and even kick on a gear. But I genuinely believe, Andy and I were talking off air before we went on, I genuinely think he takes the old school route, training sessions. I think he looks at people's performance and training and literally slots them in. There's always this meltdown 5 minutes after the team is announced on a Saturday or on a Wednesday or a Tuesday or whatnot, of people saying, what the hell's he doing playing? What the hell's he doing playing? This guy, I think his guy, you know, we can't guess it because we're not at Melwood or we're not at Kirby. We're not watching. We don't know who's on form. And I genuinely think, now, within parameters, I think he has a set 16 in his head where he thinks, okay, I can select from these. But I don't think it goes. I think it really is as simple as, I think he's a bit of a throwback when it comes to that type of form. Because for me, it's been impossible. I mean, I never would have thought Nat Phillips was going to slot straight in there. I genuinely expected Jordan Henderson to play centre-back. But no, I did say a while back that Fabinho would slot in if there was any problems. And I was comfortable with that. I think the fella is as good at centre-back as he is midfield. And, you know, we were proven, right? Huh?
Sorry, yeah. The other kind of the flip side to my point was that sometimes when things like this happen, for example, we never thought, actually, you never planned for being without Van Dijk for a whole season, right? Sometimes you say, yeah, there's no plan B there. But sometimes when these things happen, you're forced to find a way around it. And you find the answer because sometimes can be in the obvious place. So come here. Maybe it will turn out that this young lad, Nat Phillips, is going to be the answer long term. And maybe everybody else can help him through it. Like, the point is, Klopp seems to be very, very capable of finding answers in the fucking weirdest places. You know what I mean? When it comes to team selection and performance.
Or the most obvious. I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan makes a good point there. The medical department, like, we're all complaining about but you know, for THIAGO not being involved, or complaining about different. Sometimes these fellas just aren't right, and I don't think sometimes the fans aren't communicated with about the extent of people's knocks. I think, for example, Thiago's knock against Everton was worse than we probably thought it was. And a lot of it can be just trying to keep everything calm. That's part of management as well. Kev makes a very good point there.
Yeah, also Slackline back in on the comments saying he actually thinks it's shown why we didn't buy another centre-back when you consider Fabinho, Gomez, Matip, Reece Williams, Nat Phillips, and even potentially seeing Billy the Kid at some point this season. I think that's a little bit of a. I think especially right now, I think we'd all like to have had the comfort blanket of another kind of proven centre back. I mean, Andy, you know, the team selection really was a big surprise on Saturday. No one's seen it coming. And, you know, I think we're already seeing why Klopp is an exceptional manager. Do you see, you know, we might get an injury crisis in midfield. We might get an injury crisis up front. Do you think Klopp is a man to find these solutions as we go through the season?
Yeah, he absolutely is. You know, at the beginning of the season, the fear and the doom set in when you see teams like Everton winning a couple of games and you see Villa winning a couple of games, and all of a sudden,
four games.
Yeah, we're going from team to team. And who's the threat? Like, you know.
Well, I think we've established that tonight, Andy. It's Leicester City.
Yeah, and it's going to be someone else next week. The threat is Man City. As long as we stay ahead of Man City, we'll win the league. Klopp, he needs to be trusted. All right, I'm fucking sick of saying it. You know, we went into the season with 3 senior centre backs. Okay, with Fabinho, who's well capable of going in and playing there, and I suppose it was just put off till next season till Ginny goes, and then a centre back comes in and Fabinho moves back into midfield. That would seem the simple explanation behind that. But there's also a lot of other players that are coming up, like Sir Reece Williams and like Billy the Kid and like Nat Phillips, who Klopp has every faith in. I didn't expect Phillips to start. I wondered why Phillips never got a chance at Liverpool, because he done so well in Germany by all accounts. But Klopp. But Klopp looked at needs, must, and he told Nat Phillips on Thursday that he was going to be starting, and he told him why he was going to be starting, and gave him enough time to absolutely buzz off the idea and get himself prepared, but also a little bit of time to relax then as well and settle into the challenge that was ahead of him. And he took it, and that's what Klopp does beautifully. He times everything to perfection. He has all the right words to say. He made Nat Phillips feel like the best centre back in the world on those couple of days. I'm certain of it. That's what top leaders do, and Klopp is able to do that to any kid in that squad. He's able to come up with the right words, come up with the right strategies to motivate them, and he gave Nat Phillips the perfect debut. Put him beside a big lad, the aerial threat, let him dominate, and he's finished the match as man of the match. Well, imagine how good he's feeling. We've taken a player that's, like, you know, if you want to rate them like FIFA, who might be a 70 and made him a 90. You know what I mean? Just for a couple of days chats and putting him into the right game at the right time. And now all of a sudden we have a solution for a couple of months.
Well, I think it's the different games, Andy. You hit the nail on the head there. Like, the last time Nat Phillips went in was against Everton, and Everton were always going to try to, you know, mix it up physically with us. Nat Phillips won't play against Manchester City. Absolutely no way. And it's no disrespect to his ability. It's just horses for courses. You know, it's going to be about tracking clever movement, especially if Aguero plays. You know, Klopp is not going to look well. Judging by what he's done in the past, he's not going to look to a Nat Phillips, you know, to be looking at these clever runs kind of inside and fellas trying to split you in, you know, and catch you one between three. That's not Nat Phillips' game. But if there's a big, tall centre forward to be marked, Klopp knows that he has another fella that he can turn to and say, listen, go to war with him and get somebody on the, you know, on the seconds to carry the ball away, hopefully in Gomez or somebody else, whether it be Matip. So for me, it's not that you won't see Phillips in the situation that we're in. You probably won't see a set centre back pairing. We're going to keep conceding the odd goal here or there, but I think it'll be a bit of a patchwork, you know. But there won't be any runs for any pairing.
Yeah, as David Lennon said there, he's an old-fashioned centre back, and he will have the games that necessitate that. I mean, Van Dijk's out for the season, so you can see Nat Phillips potentially getting 4 or 5 games, especially with, you know, the likes of Matip, Gomez. They always seem to pick up injuries at some point or another. So he's just another player. And I actually thought, you know, Carragher, there was again last night in the chat on the Fatback 4, there was a lot of people slating the fact that he got man of the match. I actually think, you know, and we slate Carragher as well for certain things and the way he's become on Sky. But I thought it was an absolute genius move by Carragher to give him man of the match, because it just helps our cause that we've been able to, you know, the narrative that we've been able to pluck centre back from obscurity, put him into a fairly high pressured situation, and give him the man of the match and get him out there in front of the cameras at the end with that award was just brilliant. For me, it was just giving us an extra shot in the arm that we really could do with right now with these injuries, as opposed to some people who I couldn't understand why you would want to, you know, criticize a lad who'd come in and put in a performance like that. Oh, unbelievable, really.
You know what I mean? Imagine being that insecure that you have to slag off a fucking kid that's playing for Liverpool. Huh? And you sitting there with your big fat belly with fucking, I don't know, Fowler written on the back of it. You know what I mean? Like, with a reduction of Crown Prince jersey. You know what I mean? Covered in stains. No, wankers. Come here. Do you know what I was thinking, right? I was thinking the closest thing I can think of it to would be when Coutinho left, right? Because Klopp, in my expert opinion from reading Twitter recently, right? I honestly don't think Klopp was expecting him to leave, because he'd done everything to keep him, and I suspect he expected him to stay, right? We didn't really have much time to find an answer to Coutinho leaving, but the team, the way we played changed over the next course of months, weeks, months, really. He was really a go-to guy, and everything went through Coutinho. And then our pattern of play and our style of play came and changed, and it was a little bit more nuanced. And I think he's capable and good enough to do it again. So I'm not going to say I'm not too worried about it, but Jesus, of course, well, I'm not worried. Worried's a bit of an overstatement. Jesus, worried when my dog died that time. Concerned. I'm not concerned about it. I was concerned about it. You know what I mean? But I'm not too concerned because he's found a way before with such an integral player, and I genuinely think he'll do it again. And come here, and last I checked, there we're top of the league, aren't we?
We are top of the league.
Can you imagine that? We're all shitting ourselves.
I know.
What are we going to do?
I think the other thing as well, where Klopp is adapting, and this crossed my mind, watching that game on Saturday, because it wasn't, at times it wasn't a great watch, particularly in the first half. And I think if the crowd would have been there, I think there would have been a lot of moans and groans coming from the usual kind of suspects, really. And I think the crowd might have got on the back of a few players. And I think Klopp has probably realised that do you know what? We don't need to win this league this season with any style points because, we absolutely blitzed that league last season. The fans aren't there. Yeah, the fans are at home and they want to be entertained and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is, if we need to do this, we need to grind this out, as Gav was saying last night. If we need to do this by, the horrible 2-1 wins and the horrible 1-0 wins, bring it on. Let's do it. Let's win this second league by whatever means is necessary, especially when the schedule is as bananas as it is.
Look, 10 wins, Ray. 10 wins from 13 games gone behind. If that doesn't say it all, that says it all. I mean, people are always going to panic. We all have a moan, we all have a go. But my God, that is some statistic. You look at the Manchester United game yesterday. The minute they went 1-0 down, you just went, that's them. It's them.
Yeah.
The difference between them and us is just incredible.
Sorry, Andy. Sorry, Andy, you were going to come in with something else there?
Yeah, just on the point about grinding out games and winning games ugly and that. People seem to forget that this time last year we were having the exact same arguments, discussions and points being made on social media. We were winning games by the odd goal. We weren't being convinced, and people were asking, where's the exciting heavy metal football? Where is this? Where is that? What was the most important thing? All in 3 points we clocked up. We were without Alisson for that period of time. And we were navigating our way through some difficult games. And it's the same now. We're going to be, without Van Dijk, and we have a really difficult game coming up against City. These are the type of games that win titles. And we've navigated ourselves through a reasonably difficult fixture with West Ham. The results they've had, they held City, and did they beat City? But they've had some good results, and Antonio's become a bit of a bully up there. Now we didn't play, but we were facing a banana skin, and we've managed to do it. And I don't think when you look back and there's a fella carving Liverpool onto the trophy, he doesn't put down performances. He puts down Liverpool.
Yeah, my point of view on it, right? Anyway, we won the league last year, so we don't win it this year. I don't give a shit. Honestly, 30 years was waiting on it, man. You know what I mean? I can do another 30. Do it. I'm standing on my fucking head.
I'd like to take a few while we can, sort of thing, Neilo.
Yeah, you're weaker than I am.
So, Andy, you kind of we've already kind of gone into the area that I guess Phil was going to discuss, but you're going to stand in and ably deputise on, and it's around form. When does form become the norm? Did he give you a brief on it before you come on?
Yeah. I still don't know what he was talking about, but
it's all that chocolate wine, all the chocolate wine. He was
talking insanity.
Yeah, no,
he had a heavy weekend.
He did. What the fuck? He was out to recall how much he drank, like 17 bottles of Peroni and then 2 bottles of gin, and fuck's sake.
That's because he was locked in the bedroom on his own, drinking when all the empties are still in there, pissing in a bucket.
But no, I think what he was on about was individuals, and I'll give you an example of a player in a minute. You probably know who I'm talking about in a minute, but is when does form become decline? How long do we say a player is just out of form before we realise that No, actually, they were just in decline. They were so long out of form that we were never ever going to see them come back into form again. And I think, yeah. So I think why that is important is when you have a team. What?
Someone's a smart cunt.
What do they say?
You're going to be slaughtered for it now. The comments, boom, 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 boom. How dare you?
No, Neilo's breakfast. That was the one I was laughing at.
All right. Now, why is that important at Liverpool? I suppose when you have a transfer strategy that kind of one comes in and one goes out. I know Klopp is probably building the generation 2 that's going to see him out for the rest of his contract. We will see a different 11 by the time he actually leaves Liverpool. But when you have that sort of thing where you sort of are selling players to buy players and reinforce the squad, you have to sort of sell your players at the right time. And you need to recognise when a player is peaked and when they're on the downward slope. Now, as I'm sure you've guessed by now, I think that player is Firmino, that people have started to question whether he's just out of form, needs to be dropped, burnt out, or is he done and dusted? I know productive-wise, goals and assists, I think he peaked about two seasons ago. And since then, he hasn't been as productive. But where he has been as productive is on those key metrics that Klopp looks for in that area of the pitch. And that's the type of things like involvements in build-ups and touches in the middle of the park and key passes. And those sort of numbers haven't fallen off. And I don't even need to look at passing networks from the stats gurus to know that. The reason I know that is because Klopp hasn't bombed them. And Firmino's going to stay in the team as long as he's doing what Klopp requires him to do. So, like, we've got Jota there, who I really, really want to see play, because this fella he absolutely deserves to start games, because he's come in like a duck to water. He's come in and he just understands how the team are supposed to play. Like he's been around for years, and that's a sign of a great player. And I think when someone has that sort of form, it needs to be nurtured, and you need to act fast. You need to get them into the team, and that's why I think it's important to kind of establish what is going on with Firmino. Is it form or is it decline? Put another player into the team and figure it out.
Does that not prove the point about Keita then?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can have that debate about anyone. I mean, I remember this debate was had about Henderson a couple of years ago, when those couple of seasons he played a 6, and to the naked eye you couldn't really see what he was offering to the team. A lot of us still backed him, but if we were being honest, his performances weren't great. They were 6 and 6.5, 7s out of 10. Now he's having kind of 8s and 9s. You couldn't really see, but what Klopp could see was the player in there doing exactly what he needed to do, following instructions. And clearly Bobby is still doing that. He's not coming out with the numbers, with goals and assists, but he's still obviously doing what he's supposed to do. If you want to have that argument about Keita, sure, we haven't seen enough of Keita to know whether he's performing to those key metrics that Klopp demands.
The point I was making about Keita was that Jota just came straight in and he's doing the business, and sure, why couldn't Keita do that too? Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, I think you're great signings, you're great players, you're great young players. As soon as they get into the team, they hit the ground running, and everybody just knows. Like, look at THIAGO's first 1 or 2 games. Like, for fuck's sake, look at him. Yeah. Fabinho, when he eventually did get into the team, you seen it. Van Dijk, Salah, Robbo. These players, they're class acts, and you don't generally have to wait 2 or 3 seasons to see the best of them. You generally don't have to wait. Have 3 years of arguments on Twitter before you see what's great about a player. But look, On the other flip side of the thing, one of Klopp's weaknesses, if ever he had any, was when he was at Dortmund. He didn't really sell players when they peaked or when they kind of felt when they were on that downward curve, and he persisted with players, and that I think was his downfall. I think maybe it's a loyalty thing, but yeah, I mean, I'll open it to you boys. Like, what do you think? Do you think Bobby's in decline? Do you think it's a form thing? Do you think they should be looking to move him on?
I think some of it comes down to persevering with Bobby more maybe than someone else who was having a similar dip, because he is so integral in terms of what we do. Now, I get the point that Jota's come in and potentially he could come in and do a job and we could do things slightly differently. And I think that's a great, not only a great option, but it should motivate sort of Bobby in some respects. Or it might just give us the opportunity for him to take, for him to take a kind of a break for a few games, because plenty of people seem to be calling on that. I mean, there's other things that could be going on. We don't know what's going on in his, something could be going on in his personal life. There were some links, weren't there? There were some links with him, with other clubs. Maybe he thinks maybe he thinks himself he needs a new challenge. Everyone's different. I mean, it could be any number of things, but right now, from my point of view, I think he could do with just maybe a few games out, and let's see what the alternative is.
Yeah, I think he's exhausted. I know nobody has had a pre-season, but particularly for a player like Bobby Firmino, who gets through so much work and does make so many personal sacrifices physically for the team, you need that break. You need that little bit, and I don't think he's one of those lads, obviously, that sticks his hand up and says, "Oh yeah, I want to sit out the next 2 or 3 weeks." But I think that's exactly what he needs. Flying off to South America every few weeks with this crazy internet. I mean, considering what's going on in the world, doesn't make sense anyway. But he doesn't miss any Brazil trips. I think the fella is just burned out. He needs 2 weeks of watching football, club football, in my opinion.
I think if you look at it, sorry, Peter. Go ahead. Sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
No, not at all, Neilo.
I think if you look at it from the global sense, right? Like, we won the league there, right? How many games have we into this season? I don't know.
Seven games.
Yeah. So that he was a member of that team that fucking blitzed the league last year. We're 7 games into this season, and all of a sudden his form has gone. He's in decline. That's such a load of bollocks. Just take him out of the team for a couple of days. And listen, come here. You can go back and look at stats and do whatever the fuck you want. He was an integral part of that team that won it last year. He was a part of the front three, the best. Everybody was saying the best front three in the world. Right, and now he's having a little bit of a different form. So what? And Klopp seems to think he can play. If he can play through it, and it'll come back to him. Let him have it. Take him out of the team for a couple of weeks and put Jota in. Then put him back in. For me, that'll be fine. All right.
Neilo for president.
There was another one I want to quickly. Because we're on this kind of subject, a name that got thrown into the comments was James Milner. How do people feel about James Milner's drop off now? I know it's a completely different type of player we're talking about, but he does seem to be like, it was almost like last season was the last good season he had in him in some respects.
The formation done him. The change of formation, and we talked about it on the show in that game. Where he was it? I don't know which game it was, but he was caught so many times 2 between 3 and getting broke on. I mean, that's not where he wants to be. Milner, like any human midfield player, needs numbers around him. So, no, I'm not buying that from someone like him. I mean, the preseason that we did have, he was streets ahead in the bleep test. I don't think there's been when you get to a certain age, that's you until you stop. You don't drop. You get to 32, 33 at that level. And that's you until you stop. So I'm not buying the drop off. What I am buying is the change of formation. It's killing him. And he's played a couple of times now when Klopp has changed it. And he's just getting swamped with numbers. For me, it's that simple.
And he's even struggling, isn't he, Andy, when we see him sort of deputise in the left back role now. He used to be able to do that job pretty well, but now he's just, I know we've got such a talented left back, but still
Yeah,
he's so lacking there, isn't he?
I think
my next door neighbour's a gay bag.
Thanks, Neilo.
The left back.
Apparently, I'm too fucking loud. Fucking slow. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Maybe it was us.
Maybe she's a fan.
Oh, it's a
maybe
she.
she's in the comments. Look, Milner's made it quite clear he doesn't like playing left back. If you play a fella in a position that he just doesn't like playing, he's 34 or something now. Like, he's a pain in his ass playing there. I know we should give it socks, no matter where he's asked to play, and he will. But he's not really a left back. But the positions that he's been asked to play in centre midfield aren't the areas that he excels in. I think he's a good grafter, but tactically trying to hold the midfield and to be that sort of astute player. He's a bit more all action. Prefer to see Milner on the ball, getting out in wide areas, swinging balls in. That's where Milner's really good. And I think with Milner, it's a mixture between form and decline. Clearly, he's declining. I mean, he's 34, but he's always been a bit funny with form, because I think it's about 3 seasons now people have been doubting Milner, and every season, like, you look back and you say, "Fucking hell, he was brilliant," and it's going to be the exact same this year. Milner's quality, and he brings a lot more than just himself to the team. I think he gets better performances out of players around him. And there's some games you need a James Milner in the side, so I don't think it's over for him just yet.
Being 34 myself, and in my prime, and improving in certain areas, I can tell you James Milner isn't finished yet. In fact, the best analogy I can give you is I have an 8-year-old Toyota Prius there with 300,000 kilometers on it, right? But it's been well looked after and well serviced. She'll do another fucking 8 years.
Yeah,
there you go. Once my point is he's lived a very clean life, right? Taking all messing aside. He's apparently the fittest player at the club. Now, come here. Eventually, your feet are going to stop doing what your head wants them to do, right? In my case, that happened a long time ago. But however, right? He's not in decline. I wouldn't be too. He's another couple of seasons in him there. And from not being privy to what goes on behind closed doors, because I've no idea what goes on in the training camp or any of that shit, but the impression you get is that he's very influential and he's really integral part of the squad, and not just the squad as in terms of a squad number, but integral part of it as being in the collective sense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's any coincidence that he's been around when we've actually made these breakthroughs and won a Champions League and we've won a league title. We brought him in not just for his ability on the pitch, but for the fact that he was a winner and he'd experienced some of these things. Yeah, exactly. You bring certain people in for more than just a raw football and ability.
I mean, look at what Bracky is saying there. He's dead right in them tight games. I remember, I don't know, was it the Champions League game against City? I know it's a couple of seasons now, but he hit one of the City players, a tackle that I'd say the fella is still feeling now, to set up Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal. I mean, it's things like that Milner does, that other players just don't do. I'm a huge fan. I love fellas like Milner. Go about their business, don't open their mouths, and really put an impact on things. The longer he stays, the better.
Yeah. Kev O'Sullivan's asking anyone know exactly what's wrong with Ox at the moment. He's completely fallen off the map, hasn't he? Like, there seems to be...
you reach a point where you stop even bothering finding out what's happening. It's like Matip. What is his next injury? What was his last one? It's all just like chewing gum.
He's running out muscles now to fucking hurt at this stage.
Yeah, and we had it with Shaq last year. I was wondering what the fuck is going on with this fella.
Yeah.
Like, you stop looking. You look at the training pictures on a Friday or a Thursday and say, "Oh, there he is now." That's the main thing, is when they're coming back. I don't know what the fuck.
But it looks like Matip has he got off the plane there in Italy earlier on, so he has at least travelled.
You're saying he was capable of walking down a set of stairs like without injuring himself?
Yeah. Well, thankfully,
you'll have to get one of them Torah horde fucking stair climbers. Don't sit there.
I mean, personally,
you wonder, when do you give up on players like that? When do you say, listen, enough is enough now? You've been injured you've been here for 5 years and you've been injured for 7 of them 5.
I'm not sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm not sure I'd be risking him myself with City coming up, because chances are he'll go, if he plays against Atalanta, he'll go missing for another 4 weeks. So I think we'll have to choose our games carefully with Matip. We'll come back onto on the pitch matters shortly when we close out with the viewers topic around Salah and the stick that he's been getting. But I just wanted to quickly touch on I guess that the club now are in a position where they know that fans in all likelihood are not going to be inside the stadiums this season, but it hasn't stopped them sending out a communication recently to supporters saying that essentially they are working behind the scenes for the moment at which fans are allowed back into the ground. Neilo's checking his phone furiously. You're not a member, Neilo. You're not a season ticket holder.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. I think I have my back here. No, I haven't. I found out clearing out fucking old wardrobe there, and I found an LFC fan card from when I was a kid.
Did you?
I remember a fucking something.
It's one of those 40,000
probably fake, actually,
that they had to cancel when they did the first clean down, I would imagine.
What do you mean clean down? What are you suggesting? Now, come here. It's not my name on it, but I have a card.
There you go. So yeah, I mean,
that's so you can park in special places.
Cheeky bastard. Cheeky fucking bastard. Cheeky bastard. I'm on the Twitter now. You know what? I'm on the Twitter now. I'm going to tag a load of people in a fucking tweet later on about what you just said. Fucking hell, man. It's easy for you to laugh at. I deliver it every day. In fact, fuck you, I'm out.
Another on-camera storm up from Neilo. To add to the many. But it looks to me, I'm reading between the lines here, and it looks to me like there's an inevitability about the club bringing in some kind of, maybe some kind of biometrics around, which they can use as a kind of excuse for contact tracing and so on and so forth when fans are allowed in the stadium. I mean, Andy, I mean, you and I often have discussions around ticketing and the accessibility of fans getting into the stadium.
Accessibility, are you on it again? Are you still fucking at it?
It's obviously gonna be tough to get tickets back to see Liverpool anytime soon because it's going to be limited capacity. I mean, how do you see this thing progressing in the future? Because I think the club will use this as an opportunity to bring in some of the reforms that they've been looking and hoping to do for many, many years, but have just had one obstacle after another in the way.
Yeah, it's been on the cards for years, and I think they did something similar in Fenway years ago where season ticket holders had to be license holders, and this was to ensure that the person with the season ticket was the person coming into the ground every week. And I don't know what it's like, the demographic in Boston, how many people travel a long way, or is the stadium mainly full of locals? I don't know, but it's a little bit
full of bank robbers. There's more bank robberies in Boston than anywhere else in the world back in the 10 or 15 years ago. It's true, that. It's fact.
It's that bit different in Anfield. You've got a lot of fans every week, and there are thousands coming from Ireland, and there are thousands coming up from London and around the UK, and then Scandinavia, China, all over the globe now. And you can be sure as shit that most of those fans are using a ticket with somebody else's name on it, whether they're fan card holders who buy up half the season, or season ticket holders who flogged their season ticket to a tour operator or something, won't be naming any names around that, but I've seen stacks of fan cards and season tickets in people's hands getting divvied out outside the ground. So the question is, will it be a good thing or will it be a bad thing? I think it would be a good thing for the club to have a bit more control over ticketing. Now, I could be slaughtered for that. If I was on Twitter saying that now, I could be slaughtered, because what people think will happen is the club will just sell all their tickets to tour operators. But tickets will become far more accessible if you take out the touts and those tour operators, and I'm not talking about the official partners of the club, because they're not the problem. It's the tour operators that have Jimmy Jones selling his season ticket as part of a package, and all these rogue tour operators are touts and worse. So if they could develop a system where people were going in with the right name, the right ticket, I think they could make tickets more accessible to supporters, clubs, fan card holders, and then have your season ticket holders that are living around the city going in and out of games. Do one big sweep of an amnesty where people have had a ticket in their family for years and years, and they change a name and continue on from there. The club will eventually, because Liverpool the owners are one of the leaders in trying to bring in technology, whether it's like, your thumbprint or your retina scanner coming into the ground. And the excuse now to avoid any criticism from the likes of SOS or any other fan groups is it's a security issue now. It's a health and safety issue now. We need to track and trace all supporters coming in and out of the ground. And that's the future of it. So I think we're all going to need to face up the facts that that's the future now, and fans need to help and assist the club and support that kind of development in the reform and make sure that no silly business happens. I don't see the problem with people going into the ground. The day of meeting lads in the corner for stacks of season tickets or stacks of fan cards, that should be gone now. That there's absolutely no way that should be still a runner these days.
Yeah,
you should be getting a ticket to your phone and paying the club. Nobody should be paying 300 quid outside the ground and risking buying last year's season ticket. And there's lots of people who fall for that, and they're not even foolish. They're just people that haven't been to the ground.
Just desperate, really. There's some comments in here about how shocking it is to try and get tickets, for Anfield based on people's experiences. And people will, if it's their one trip, I've spoken to plenty of people here in Ireland who've gone over, spent an awful lot of money, and then just haven't, I guess, had either the money or the confidence to pull the trigger and pay silly money at the risk of that not being genuine, but have still had to forego, the cost of a trip over to Liverpool.
Can I just, sorry, I don't mean to cut across you, Ray, but there, Jason O'Neill, 800 quid off an Irish tour operator. Jason, just put up, don't have the name, I don't want you to name the tour operator, but just put up whether it was a name on the ticket or the name of the tour operator on your ticket. That's what I'd like to see, because there's tour operators getting all these tickets and they've absolutely no rights to them. And it seems to be allowed.
It can be, sometimes it's the price of success as well too, isn't it? I know it's not fair. Jesus, if I'm going over, we'd have to play scandal. Well, if I would want to bring me young lad, apart from when I'm meeting Ray before, when he's out of his face, well, covered in barbecue sauce. What's wrong with him, Dad? But anyway, listen, sometimes it's the price of success too, unfortunately, isn't it? And it's not fair. And there'll never ever be enough seats in Anfield for everybody. If it was 100,000 capacity, it's still not enough seats for everybody. I think sometimes it's the price of success. But Andy, I do agree completely with you. There is ways and means of sorting it out, and it's not fair to penalise this chap and his son forking out all that bread for one match. It's not on.
Well, see, there you go. So there's a response to both, right? If you just see random names on your ticket, report the tour operator. If it's the name of the company and they're overcharging, report them as well, because they've absolutely no fucking right to have those sort of markups. 800 quid, bullshit. People just need to stop paying.
If it's a company, have they got the right to charge whatever they want for it? I think they might do.
Well, they're going to justify their price point and what they have to pay for your hotel, your bus, or blah, blah, blah.
But I think calling them out, particularly on social media, you would hope that would have some kind of leverage on stopping people from going back to them and being ripped off again in the future. And the danger is...
regulate, isn't it? It's very difficult to regulate that industry, especially if people are prepared again to pay. That's all they have to point to. Well, you have the piece of paper, you're prepared to pay. It's terrible. Everybody would have to say no at once. That's the difficult, and the tour operators know that.
But then again, there is sometimes lads who fund their season ticket by not going to all the games and kind of sacrificing some of those games and charging people a little bit more to go and see it. I think that's how some lads fund their season ticket. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very, very nuanced, and you can't penalise everybody, but there certainly something does need to be done.
There's a lot of lads who use their season ticket to get to the aways, so they don't go to any of the homes. And they get getting to go to the aways is as much of a kind of a club to try and get into. And somebody mentioned about the ladder there, getting to go into games in Anfield. If you're a regular going to Anfield, like you're in the 0.0001% of fans around the world. If you're going to the aways, you're in the 0.00001%. Do you know what I mean? It's such a difficult club to get into, is the aways. So there's all sorts of little dynamics going on there, how people are accessing games. But one thing's for sure, we have to cut out touting, legal touts and illegal touts.
I think also, for season ticket holders moving forward, some kind of system. I don't know, the club has for a while had a kind of a you can sell your ticket back in to the pool to be then, I guess, redistributed out to fans. But if there was some kind of, ticket exchange, proper ticket exchange system where you were allowed to maybe kind of above board exchange games out on your season ticket to another supporter, I'm all for as many people as possible to experience, Anfield at a fair price. And I think as season ticket holders, you have to kind of accept that, you are very privileged and who knows what's going to happen when fans do get back into grounds, whether season ticket holders will get the same level of privilege. Because if you do just make it, season ticket holders only, what are the prices going to be like for people who are going to want to come over and, and try and get into those games on the black market? It's going to be, even for the most ardent fans, and let's say local fans, it's going to be very tempting to start looking to get 400-500 quid for your ticket, especially if you've lost your job recently or you've had your hours reduced or whatever because of the impact of COVID. So it's going to be, it's certainly going to be one to look out for when fans start being allowed back in the ground, which way the club are going to go with this.
Did they have season ticket holders being refunded for the amount of games that haven't happened this year, or did they not have to pay? I'm not too sure. I'm only asking.
Not
because I did get the email from the club.
Yeah, so basically there was a number of games last season which obviously which went ahead behind closed doors off the top of my head, I think 4 games. So refunds were given back to the season ticket holders for those 4 games. This season the club, in fairness, didn't make anyone pay out anything, didn't make anyone, some clubs have made people kind of pay for the privilege of remaining a season ticket holder, even though there's no games, no immediate plan. Yeah, so the likes of Arsenal, I think.
Arsenal, I knew you were going to say that. They're showing home refunds.
They've now it's not a massive payment, but it's a couple of £100, which
a couple of £100. Send us £100 there. Well, no, there's no matches in place.
150, 200 quid. Whereas here with Liverpool, they've just basically said we've suspended the season ticket sales, but obviously when we're in a position to sell tickets, we'll communicate what our approach is going to be. I'd imagine if we did get to a point where we'd be allowed into games at a limited capacity, there might be some kind of balloting system between season ticket holders and members.
Yes,
I'd say the next time season tickets are sold back as they were before, it's going to have to be when full capacity is back allowed in football matches, and that could be any number of years away. So I think as season ticket holders, you've just got to be patient, be grateful for the fact that you are still going to be the ones who are allowed back in the ground when it's at full capacity first, and just accept this is the situation for the time being.
And then he had the clamour there. He had the clamour there just before the season started. Why aren't we signing someone for 100 million? We need to sign somebody. And then the club literally aren't getting any money in the door from season ticket holders. You know what I mean? Okay,
so look, we'll move it on. One player that we have got, and one player that is still top of the tree for me, Mo Salah. Pete, we've spoken about Mo Salah in all kinds of different ways. We're back now onto a topic about him winning penalties. What? First of all, what was your thought on the penalty at the weekend, and then and then the frenzy that seems to have followed that?
Salah gets kicked through the back across his right foot. He goes down. If he doesn't go down, doesn't get the penalty. He does what every player, including the white English players like Harry Kane, do, that are perceived as being clever for doing it. It's good old-fashioned Britain again, and British media being xenophobic. And now they understand that they have, because of the rise of the right lately, and because of the reaction to all of the Black Lives Matter, and they see the power of right-wing reactionary Twitter and social media. You'll see little headlines, you'll see posts from the likes of Gary Lineker, posts from the likes of Tony Cascarino's editor, Tony Evans told me tonight that it was the editor, not Tony Cascarino. You'll see them pandering to right-wing people for clicks. It's that simple. So what you're seeing is, and it's quite worrying, to be honest with you, in context, you're seeing on one episode, for example, of Match of the Day, Danny Murphy, Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer telling us how clever Harry Kane is to use his body in a certain way. And on another episode, less than a couple of weeks later, the same men will tell us how Mo Salah is a cheat, and this sort of thing shouldn't be allowed into our country, and it's destroying our game. It's borderline xenophobia, and it's based deeply in racism. Anybody wants to tell me that I'm wrong, feel free. We can pull up miles of YouTube footage and we can back it up. We are seeing Britain at its right-wing worst, media worst. It's simple,
Peter. It's that jingoism that has always been there, isn't it? And now there's a bit of an audience, and there's people that would. It's okay to for that kind of to rear its ugly head again, because there's an audience there for it. I hear exactly what you're saying. Has it ever really been any different? No, it's always kind of something that's been inherent, I think, in the British game. It's always been there, and it's really sad. Like, I agree with you, it's terrible sad to see it that it's coming back again. I'm saying coming back again.
It never went away.
It never went away. It's become more prevalent again. It's become acceptable again, which is fucking great, and become acceptable again in the mainstream media.
Exactly. John Barnes gets hammered every week for making these points, and it's like there's a crazy amount of people out here who just don't want to see it. They don't want to see it. Now, a lot of people think it's a Liverpool versus Tottenham versus. It's not about football clubs. It's not about allegiances. It's about the media's perception of what they deem is to be cheating. For me, I don't care. It's not about Liverpool. It's not about Crystal Palace. It's about what I want to see is a balanced interpretation of what the media perceives as cheating. For example, Harry Kane committed a foul last night. A foul. He could have broken Adam Lallana's neck. In another sport, you'd be banned for 6 months for what you did. Nothing said. And Gary Lineker posted a tweet, which he knew what he was doing. He said, and I quote, Harry Kane bought himself a penalty. Now, what he was doing there, after being on a show the night before, hammering Mohamed Salah, he wanted to show everybody that he was commenting on it, but he didn't want to be seen to be castigating Harry Kane. To use the term bought can be interpreted as positive or negative, can be interpreted as clever or sly. Gary Lineker is one of the most facetious and sly people in the media. He's no balls, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Tony Cascarino, in fairness to him, I'm told reliably by a guy who used to edit him, Tony Evans, that his editor cooked up that headline. So he gets a free pass. But you see what the agenda is to throw out that xenophobic fishing hook and get your 15,000 tweets about how the nasty foreign play in our sport. It's an absolute disgrace.
But I tell you what, it's bleeding work, didn't it? Because my timeline was just full of people condemning that, that headline for what it really was. I mean, Andy, in terms of just, if you just take it from a pure footballing sense, I mean, in terms of Mo Salah being cute or sly or buying penalties or whatever, if you actually just look at it in the cold light of day, Mohamed Salah doesn't get an awful lot of decisions. He gets kicked at, he gets hacked at, he gets pulled back. There's all manner of things that are going on in terms of Mo Salah in and around the penalty area. And I think, in fairness to him, he's incredibly honest, almost too honest at times.
He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. Look, the people who pay his wages are Liverpool and Liverpool fans. He has to make the best decision he can in that situation. If you feel contact, you have to go down. Right, look, hand on my heart, right, take off the red tinted glasses for a second. He takes a stride before he goes over, right? It's not a natural fall, but he doesn't get a penalty unless he goes over. So he has to go over. So he has to, on his next opportunity to go over after contact, he has to go over because he's not getting it. It goes back to the problems with refereeing in the country. Like, they're just shy. They can't see a foul and just give a penalty when a player is booted on the back of the ankle. Right? That's a foul. It should be a penalty. In order for Salah to get a penalty, he has to deal with the media backlash, which isn't right. It's down to inadequate referees, as with nearly everything going on at the moment. Soon as called it right, you don't have to be to have played the game for years and years to see from 50 yards that that's an unnatural occurrence. Players shouldn't need to go over on their second stride after a foul to get a penalty. It should be just given the penalty. The likes of Lineker and fucking Murphy and the likes of them. I don't know what, I'm open to education. I don't fully understand all these concepts of unconscious racism, but I do follow a lot what Barnes says, and I'm starting to understand them a lot more. These things are institutionalized. It's deeply ingrained in culture. This is the British media who are paying the BBC viewers are the British taxpayers paying their TV license, and that's the same country who voted to leave Europe. It's the same country who voted in Tory governments. So I mean, that's who's paying for that channel. And that's the people that are trying to appease all the time. You probably find most of the people who are taking Lineker and Murphy and all those, the cleaners, and calling them out for what they are people that have a much more global view on things, and they weren't biased. And you don't need to try and prove this any longer. The English media have and always have backed their own players. The league has always backed their own players. When it comes to things like reviewing decisions after games, they always side with the English player. Kane is almost untouchable. The England captain is always untouchable. But it can get quite disgusting sometimes when the certain things get said about Salah, because what it does is it gives proper scumbag racists the opportunity to take Salah to the sword and bring a horrible types out against him. He's a wonderful player. He's one of the best players that has ever graced the Premier League, and an unbelievable import and asset to the game. And to see him getting treated like that, I mean, it's not fucking good, is it? And if they want to continue to bring these great players, it's going to take more than just the money when they get treated like scumbags. One of the best players to ever play in the league, and he's answerable to all this, as Neilo pointed out, all these beer-stained fat bastards with their fucking name and number on the back of their jersey, like the
cunts who put the town on the fucking sunbed. That crew,
the absolute cheek of them. Mo Salah's a gent. He's an incredible human being. What he does
well sent, Brodge.
Yeah, an incredible human being.
Come here, didn't I just see it? I've seen it described on Sky and BT Sports as that although it's not when it was a white English player, it's been described as it's not actually diving. He's letting the referee know that he has been fouled. Like I've seen it described, but that's what it is. Just letting the referee know. But when Salah does it, it's a dive. Come here, it doesn't fucking matter. He was fouled.
Yeah.
Like, what's the fucking problem? What happened after that is irrelevant.
I mean,
if he had taken the shorts off and took his flute out, it doesn't matter. He was fouled.
In real time, it seemed obvious. You know, I've started watching the games without the crowd noise the last couple of weeks. You know, and he immediately, you know, let out a scream of pain. Like he got a proper whack, and he, you know, going down. I think it was just a reaction to that kind of initial jolt of pain sort of thing, as you would go down if
he's usually a good lad. He stands up like he's usually a good lad. He doesn't go down. Have you noticed he's on penos this year?
Oh, he is on penos.
That's the difference then, isn't it? You know what I mean? Huh? He go down like a cheap hooker now.
To get that golden boot back,
right. He's dead right, man.
But I suppose it's no coincidence, is it, that Harry Kane is his his English rival to winning that golden boot as well. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, he's a reprehensible character, that too, isn't he?
This is a guy that swore on his own daughter's life that he touched a ball that he never touched from just like his pal in the studio, Alan Shearer, who kicked, I think it was Neil Lennon in the face, 15 or 16 years ago, and got away with it. Listen, let's not kid each other. Let's not kid each other. It's their game, and anybody that if somebody came from France. I'm not even talking about the colour of someone's skin. Someone comes from Italy, someone comes from France and does those things. They do anything to get a goal. They'd swear on anyone, or they kick anybody and get away with it. This is how blatant it actually. It's not even a debate, lads. These guys are exposed. They're being exposed. And nobody seems to want it. I don't see any Ofcom regulators holding them accountable for the amount of xenophobic activity that's coming off the back of these obvious activities. And they just, what they do is they don't count the xenophobia, they just count the clicks. This is what you're dealing with. Like it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah, the big consumers of tabloid media are those dumb heads.
That's the demographic. That's the demographic that buys them papers. Andy, you're dead right,
yeah.
So, Peter, you're better off.
Hang on, Ryan Giggs was arrested tonight. So we're going to finish this show in a few minutes, and you're going to go on Twitter and you're going to see Ryan Giggs arrested for assaulting his girlfriend. Let's see how the media deals with that. Let's see if, for example, Jorginho Wijnaldum was arrested for the same thing. Let's see the difference. Let's see how Ryan Giggs. It'll be Manchester United legend. It won't be that dirty. Let's see how they deal with one of their British darlings, because let's face it, this is a guy that slept with his own brother's wife. But he's been an international manager. Let's call a spade here.
Exactly.
He's now an international manager.
Didn't he get sports personality of the year after sleeping with his brother's wife?
This is what I'm saying.
I don't think it was for that, Neilo.
If it's all right, if it's all right. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest. This is the Britain that you're dealing with. This is what you're dealing with. This is what you're dealing with. So let's see how they deal with this. I guarantee you, though, he won't be hung out to dry. That's for damn sure.
Just quickly back on Mo Salah, though, I think to reiterate what you were saying, Andy. The one thing you would say about Mo Salah is he doesn't seem to rise to this, does he? He just gets back on the pitch week in, week out, and he just performs, doesn't he?
Yeah, the one that springs to mind is when he dealt with an awful lot of shit from Chelsea fans, racist stuff from Chelsea fans, and that following week he smashed one into the top corner from 25, 30 yards. So yeah, look, that's the response you get from Salah. As I said, he's an incredible human being, and that's what incredible human beings do. They respond very well to those sort of to adversity, and I
even think he's undervalued by Liverpool fans, if I'm honest with you. I think we did have that chat,
and we did have that chat.
Had we? Come here, sorry.
We had that chat, and you know, we did explore the whole unconscious racism thing there, but you know, my thing with Liverpool fans and Salah is just he can be frustrating. He can make the wrong decisions a lot of times, but he's got the ability to just take his next chance. So
he's on fire at the minute, though, isn't he?
If you can forgive him.
Do you know what he has, Andy? Do you know what he has, though? Do you know what he has that a lot of these guys don't have that criticize him? He's tremendous dignity. I mean, you'll see a lot of quotes about Mohamed Salah, but you won't see any quotes from Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, he has a great integrity about him. He has, yeah.
Terrible things are said about that guy, but he never opens his mouth. He has dignity. Gary Lineker, no dignity. Tony Cascarino, no dignity. Ryan Giggs, no dignity. All these guys are mouths and go off and do horrible things. And then they go into a studio and criticize men like Mohamed Salah. And Mohamed Salah says nothing and sticks one into the top corner in Chelsea's net. And he has dignity and class.
Of course, yeah. And I think, you know, he's one of these people who clearly doesn't care what other people think. You know, he obviously is more than capable. He's you know, a character who can rise well above all of that kind of crap that's going on, and just, you know, you'd fully expect him to, you know, have a world-class performance.
He didn't even call out Ramos after he assaulted him in the Champions League final. Sure, he didn't.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Just moved on. Just got on with it. Won the Champions League.
But won the Champions
came back
League the next year and won it.
Scores a penalty. Scores a penalty in the first minute.
Says some Nick as well, isn't he? Wow.
Yeah. Obviously, he is a perfect role model, and you know, he's. Yeah, I don't know how much good things can you say about him. You know,
I'll put it this way: he's not going to be lacking for support from Liverpool fans anyway over the next few weeks. I just briefly mentioned City there before we close this down. I'm going to just take a quick early sort of, I guess, view of how people are thinking going into that City game. I'm not going to go into the Champions League stuff.
When's Champions League? When are we playing that?
We're playing again tomorrow night, I believe, Neilo. Yeah, Atalanta. The football men will be watching. You know, a lot of lads, the Shane Davros, the Garbrines, the Joe Walshes will be loading heavily, looking for 4 digits, potentially 5-digit wins on Atalanta tomorrow night.
They'll all be, listen, in 10 years' time, they'll all be homeless. Only the bookie always wins.
So we'll skip past Atalanta and we'll get on to City. Andy, how are you feeling? You've got history with City. How are you feeling?
I've a look alike with a bit of history with City.
What's this? What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Andy and buses, Manchester City buses.
Oh yeah.
Just excuse me, it wasn't me. How am I feeling about it? I'm worried about it because I think they can. They are the team. City are the team that just need that bit of belief or that bit of encouragement from beating us. You know, I think if we beat them, you could really just fuck them up again for the season. I think they're very weak mentally. I think we can respond to a defeat better than they could respond to a defeat. So I don't think it all boils down to this game, but I certainly think if we can beat them, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult for Pep to get that team back together mentally to challenge for the league. I think it's always going to be the Champions League for him anyway till he leaves City. But now I am concerned. It's a different prospect. It's not going to be these aerial balls coming in constantly, just playing Nat Phillips to mop up. That's what Klopp kind of identified as what teams were doing against Liverpool recently. So we're going to need to be on our game. We're going to need to probably defend a little bit deeper. but also play our own game as well, because I think if we play our own game, we can cause an awful lot of trouble for their defence, especially the way Mo was playing. And it'd be a good game. Be a good game for Bobby maybe to just prove a few of those doubters wrong lately. I think he's probably only a goal in a massive game away from kicking on.
If I could offer you a 2-2 draw now, Andy, would you take it?
No, I never really take them. I think a couple of seasons ago maybe, but I firmly believe we're better than City now. I think it's them that should be taking the 2-2 draw, not us. It's away at City, but they're neutral venues now. I think we can go there and the football to rise to the top. I know we got beaten there last year. Just towards the end of last season, but with an empty ground. But there's important players missing there that done us that night. So no, I won't take that 2-2.
I seen you nodding, Pete, when I offered the 2-2. I say that because of the circumstances and the position we put ourselves in. I think potentially a draw at the Etihad and a win at Anfield, 4 points would be, I think sufficient in some ways if the rest of the season goes to script. Given the injury setbacks and what we're going to be going there with a fragile centre-back partnership, it sounds like you would be willing to take the 2-2.
It's games like this when you understand how important Virgil van Dijk is to this team. And that can't be underestimated. But I hope that THIAGO has been wrapped up in wool, particularly for this game. Because, I think Andy's right. We're going to defend very, very deeply. And in order to be successful off that second ball that breaks, you need somebody like THIAGO in transition to pick the right pass. Maybe the logic is we won't have that many chances, but we're going to have to take them. We're going to have to, if Firmino's not firing on all cylinders, and presumably he plays in this game, we're going to have to, it's going to have to be the right ball at the right time. Would I take a draw? I can see a 2-2. I would take it just to maintain that gap between us. But, Liverpool are a funny creature. And all my life, and probably Neilo, similar age to ourselves, Neilo, you'll agree with me. Liverpool are one of those teams that when you least expect them to do the business, it's like the night against Barcelona. I always go back to that night, and we were missing 3-4 key players, and we're 3-0 down from the new camp, and all of a sudden we look like the best team in the world, but arguably our 3 best players not there. So it's one of those, when it's a hiding to nothing, Liverpool can do the business, but I take a draw. I would take a draw.
And Neilo, I don't think City have shown anywhere near what they're capable of this season so far. I guess the alternative view here is that this is an opportunity, whilst they're still not hitting peak form, to actually go there and get 3 points. What's your take on it at the moment? Because, there's comments in here, this City team isn't as good as previous ones. Is there something to be said for that?
Yeah, probably. Not messing. Come here. I think they are 5 points behind us already, aren't they? I think if we win,
game in hand.
With a game in hand, is it? Okay. Well, if we win, I think that's them probably done. I think 8 points is very hard to catch up. Are they the same team as they have been previously? No, they're not. Without Kompany, they're never going to be the same team. They haven't successfully replaced him. I mean, he was such a massive part of that team. And I think the Klopp has this hoodoo over Pep, doesn't he? He's the only manager that seems to have it. It's whatever it is. And Pep seems to be completely he's preoccupied with Klopp. And I think they certainly are going to hit form. They have too many players of exceptional ability to not hit form. I mean, we can't forget 2 seasons ago. What did they put 18 wins in a row? I know it's not the same team, but some of the players are there, and they're probably not capable of doing that again, but they're certainly capable of putting a long run together. So hopefully, I'd be fairly confident that we'll win on Sunday. It's a 4:30 now.
Yeah, it is.
Just get the dinner on about 3. So yeah, hopefully, I think we'll beat them. To be honest, but I also think we'll concede.
So I'm going to do a quick round of score predictions. Andy,
Liverpool
7-2.
Man City 1.
Another 2-1. Pete,
2-2 with us blowing a lead towards the end.
Okay, conceding late. And Neilo?
Yeah, I'd say it could be a high scoring match just by the way things are going at the minute. So yeah, probably 4-2, something crazy like that.
Yeah, no, you're not the only one who's that's Dan Jay's just thrown in a 4-2. I think I see another 4-2.
Yeah, put your house on it.
High scoring game. Someone also reminded me that Joe Walsh is far too distracted with his getting his wheelbarrow ready for the Masters golf tips. They will be live. When are they usually live, Andy? Is it the night before?
I think they're day 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just not get the email I send out, lads.
So I take it the Masters is this weekend, is it, Andy? You're one of our golf experts, yeah?
Yeah, coming up. Weekend after this, isn't it?
Oh, okay. So he's going to be distracted for a whole 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. Well, we might have some golf tips next week. We need to get Joe on one of these things. Is the technology not for him, Andy? He's not very
photogenic in fairness, right? Is he? You know what I mean? You won't get a screen big enough for his head.
He's got the technology now to come on. I had him. He was giving me a bit of stick on WhatsApp, so I says, "Okay, you're on Monday night," and then he bottled it.
Oh, okay, we'll have to try and get him on next week. We might give him a little golf corner to discuss his upcoming thoughts on the Masters.
Golf so look,
we'll so are the Dallas Cowboys, Neilo.
Jesus, last night, fucking hell. Jesus,
stayed up to watch that, did you?
Yeah, I only followed them now because it reminds me of Liverpool of being like,
yeah,
that's what it is. 30 years though.
Just a richer version.
I stayed up and watched it, yeah, and then I ended up watching the fight after as well. Yeah, it was fucking amazing.
Wow.
Anyway,
right, so we'll wrap up. This has been the Daytrippers. It's been the forum. Good discussion again tonight. We'll have 4 more topics plus a bonus viewer listener topic as well. So until next week, up the Reds.